I married my husband because he made me feel safe. He was stable, successful, and predictable, everything I thought I needed after years of chaotic, exhausting relationships. For a while, the calm was a relief. But over time, predictability turned into distance. We stopped talking unless it was about errands or bills. Touch became rare. Intimacy first robotic, then non-existent. I told myself it was normal. Life gets busy. People grow apart. But deep down, I was starving for attention, affection, to be seen. I'd watch couples holding hands or laughing over coffee and feel a hollow ache. I had everything I was supposed to want, yet I felt invisible. When my stepson moved in after breakup, I braced for tension, but he was quiet, respectful. He helped around the house. He asked how I was and actually listened, something my husband hadn't done in years. At first, it was simple. I'd mention feeling tired, and he'd suggest a show to unwind. I'd say dinner was lonely, and he'd sit with me. He noticed things like when I got a haircut or wore a new sweater. He complimented me without expectation. My husband hadn't looked at me like that in ages. One night, we ended up eating leftovers and talking. I really laughed for the first time in months. He smiled and said, "You should do that more. It suits you." Something shifted. It wasn't lust. It wasn't even love. It was recognition. I felt alive. Then came the night that changed everything. My husband was away at a conference. I was heading to the kitchen when I passed my stepson's door partly open and heard a sound, soft, then clearer. I glanced inside, not meaning to stop. He was lying shirtless on his bed, phone in hand, caught in a private moment. A woman's voice came from the speaker, breathless, unmistakably intimate. I should have looked away, but I froze. For just a second too long, I watched. Then shame hit me. But it was tangled with something else, something I didn't want to name. Back in my room, I sat trembling. It wasn't just what I saw. It was how I felt. Something raw and confusing had been stirred, and it stayed with me. The next day, I avoided him, but the image lingered. Worse, so did the feeling. The more I tried to forget, the more I noticed him, his scent after a shower, his low voice when tired, the way he looked at me like I mattered. I started dressing better around the house, a little mascara, some lipstick. I told myself it was for me, but it wasn't. It was for him, for his attention. We never spoke about that night, but something had changed. Silence buzzed with tension. A thread pulled tighter each day. Then it snapped. My husband had just left after another cold, pointless argument. I was on the couch, wine in hand, eyes puffy from crying. My stepson came in, paused, then sat beside me. He didn't ask anything, just Saturday. After a moment, he said quietly, "You saw me that night, didn't you?" I didn't answer, but I didn't deny it either. He wasn't embarrassed, just calm, understanding. "You haven't looked at me the same since." I wanted to change the subject, escape. But then he touched my hand. In that single gesture, there was more warmth than I'd felt in years. I whispered that this was wrong. He nodded, but neither of us moved. "Then why are we both still here?" he asked. I had no answer. What happened next wasn't planned. It wasn't seduction. It was surrender. Years of neglect and loneliness collided in a moment. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Afterward, there was only silence. He looked at me uncertain. I couldn't meet his eyes. I stood up, said I needed air, and left the room. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. Not because I felt guilty, but because I didn't, not yet. What I felt was relief. A dark, honest kind of relief, like I'd been thirsty for years and finally took a drink. The next morning, everything felt normal. Too normal. I made coffee, sat alone. When he came into the kitchen, we barely spoke. Days passed. Then weeks. He started spending more time out. Eventually, he said he was moving back to his mom's. I didn't stop him. I just nodded. At the door, He paused. Take care of yourself, he said. Then he left. Now I go through the motions. Smile when I need to play the part. But inside, I'm unraveling. I keep asking myself, was I just lonely, or did I trade years of silence for one brief, honest moment I broke something, a marriage, a role, maybe even part of myself? And I still don't know if I'd take it back.